Good afternoon. I'm Walt Mabe from the Board of Supervisors, and I would like to update our community on what's happening with the local Warren County situation here. And today we're going to have two guests. One is Rick Farrell. He is our Department of Emergency Coordinator, and Karen Poff is with the Extension Office. Rick is going to talk about the COVID-19 and its issues that we're dealing with. And Karen is going to be talking about financing for new people and how things are starting to change, and we're going to have money issues and how we can help figure those out together. I want to talk about, for a minute before we get into talking with Karen and Rick, just about the fact that if you have questions that you can't answer, or if you have issues that you feel that need to be resolved, or things that you see, we've got 5 supervisors all around our area. Give your supervisor a call. He or she is more than happy to come by and talk to you, or call you up on the phone, or discuss anything that you want. I know I've been doing it for the last 2 weeks or even longer, but I get an average of 1 to 2 phone calls a day, or I get an email once or twice a day about people that have questions, concerns, and things that they just want to get answered. And I'll be happy to. I know I take care of the citizens that are in my district and others, but I advise you just to talk with your supervisor. And another thing that we're talking about in the background, because we're trying to think of things that are happening in the future and what we can do, is I see around town a lot of people that are doing vegetable gardens or little gardens where they're growing tomatoes, they're growing squash, cucumbers, whatever they're growing. I'm seeing them a lot as I drive around. And just want you to think about those things, because there's somebody that may need extra. I would advise you to grow an extra tomato plant or 2 or 3 or 10. Cucumbers the same way, peppers the same way, squash the same way. Grow extra, because there'll be a food bank that'll need this stuff, and there will be people out there that'll need the extra vegetables, and we might as well get it to where they belong. With saying all that, I believe that it's time for me to turn it over to Nancy. Nancy, you're going to talk about money, the money crunch that's coming or already here, and
Sir.
It's all on you now.
Okay, great. I'm Karen Poff, and I'm with Virginia Cooperative Extension. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent, and we're here to talk about coping with a money crunch. But I will say there's more information that I can share with you today in the amount of time that we have. So I want to let you know, first of all, that we're going to have a free webinar, and we're going to be doing that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout May. And so people will be able to call in and join the webinar, and we'll talk about some of these topics in more in depth, and I'll give you more information about that at the end of the presentation. Also, the slides and the web links are in the description of the live stream. If you don't see them all on the screen, some of the things I'm going to talk about may not be on the screen, but they're in the description of the live stream. And you can also email me or attend the webinar to get lots more information and web links to different resources, because there's so much available. We just can't cover it in the amount of time we have. So we're going to talk first about and the word spells out crunch, just in case you didn't notice. We're going to talk first about considering your immediate options. So your immediate options, a lot of people have already taken some of these actions, but there is information that people still need about them. For example, one is the economic impact payments that are $1,200 for most people, for individuals, $2,400 for married, and $500 for each dependent age 16 and under. Some people have already received these. If your direct deposit information was the IRS had that information because you had received payments from them in the past, then you probably have already gotten this payment. Other people may get it automatically because they receive Social Security or SSI. If your direct deposit information or banking information is on file there. But some of those people may need to take action, and this is really important for people to know that if they get SSI or Social Security and they have dependents, just realize that the Social Security records doesn't necessarily have information about your dependents on there. A lot of grandparents raising grandchildren or other people who may have foster care children that count as dependents, those sorts of things. So there's a deadline for this. By May 5th, you want to go into the IRS website and put in your information on your dependents if you want to get that $500 now per dependent. If not, you'll still get it, but you won't be able to get it until you file your taxes. So by May 5th, you want to go in and enter your information if you get Social Security or SSI. And the way you do that, there's two links. You'll want to use the non-filers link on the IRS website. It's just irs.gov, and at the very top of the page, the left-hand side is non-filers. And so if you normally don't have to file taxes, but you get Social Security or SSI, click on that link and put in your information, including your information about your dependents. And then you'll be able to get both your payment and the additional $500 per dependent quickly through the direct deposit. If not, you'll probably get your payment now, and then the additional payments for dependents won't come until you file your taxes for 2020. So that's something important that people need to know, and that needs to get done by May 5th. Also, unemployment insurance, pandemic unemployment assistance are both available. And not everybody understands the procedure for that. So if you want to receive the pandemic unemployment assistance, you will need to apply for unemployment insurance first. And again, the links are out there in the description for the live stream. And so you'll file for unemployment, and then if they determine that you are not eligible for unemployment, there's a separate application for pandemic unemployment assistance. And a lot more people are eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance than are just eligible for unemployment. So don't assume that you aren't eligible. The rules have changed, they've been relaxed, more people are eligible for things, so it's always worth it to go ahead and apply for these things. You might be able to get assistance. So that's the Virginia Employment Commission link that we've shown. Then sole proprietors and 1099 contract employees have asked me about assistance, and they are also eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance. But the key is you've got to apply for regular unemployment assistance first. And then when they say that you're not eligible for that, you'll get the option to apply for the pandemic unemployment assistance. So that's important. A lot of people who are small businesses, but maybe it's just them, and they file a Schedule C or they get 1099s, they feel stuck in the middle because they feel like, well, I don't qualify for unemployment, but I'm not big enough to get a small business loan. You actually may have both options available to you, pandemic unemployment assistance or the Paycheck Protection Program. So again, just because you feel like you're one of the small guys, you still may be eligible for assistance. And so if you do have a business and you're in that position of sole proprietor 1099, I'd encourage you to contact the Lord Fairfax Small Business Development Center, and the link is there for that. And they can guide you as to which of those options might be the best for you. Lots of places are also hiring. They need additional people for higher demand at the essential businesses and for people who can keep things clean and sanitary and such. So keep your eyes open. There are signs in the stores for people that are hiring, so that's another option to get additional income. And then there's public assistance programs. I won't go over those in detail because the social services folks were here a couple weeks ago and talked about those in detail. But the link is there, again, for the online benefit application. And I encourage people, again, go ahead and apply, even if you think you might not be eligible because some of the rules have been relaxed. sometimes a change in your situation, even just a reduction in hours may make you eligible where you weren't eligible in the past. So it's always worth it to go and fill out the little screening link to see if maybe you might be eligible. So the next letter in the word crunch is revise or create a spending plan. That's what the R stands for. And some of you may be revising a budget that you already have, or others of you may be creating one from scratch. But now is more important than ever that you have a budget. If you've never had one, now is the time to have one, because writing it down and making your plans is what's going to make it work. Trying to keep it all in your head, you're going to forget things, and things are going to fall through the cracks when there's not enough money to pay everything you've been paying in the past. So one good way to do that is to use a regular calendar to list everything out. And you can even use a green pen and a red pen if that helps you, that color visually. Write out all of the income that's coming in. It might be a paycheck, but if it's not a paycheck, it might be unemployment insurance. It might be SNAP benefits. Whatever type of income is coming in, write it in on the dates that it's coming in that month. Then you can plan out what expenses are going to get paid from that income and write those in on the days the expenses are happening during that month. That will allow you to easily see if the expenses are going to exceed the income in a certain week and if adjustments have to be made. So just remember that this is a bare bones budget or a crisis budget. We're not trying to think about expenses that are going to happen several months from now. We're just looking at what's happening this month and how to get through this month. So you want to estimate all your income and all your expenses, and then on those expenses for each budget item, you want to ask yourself some questions about it. Can I eliminate this? Temporarily cut this thing out of my budget somehow, just for the time being until I get through this. If I can't eliminate it, can I reduce it? Maybe step down to a lower plan, or not have, for my family, we have a streaming subscription and a DVD subscription. We might be able to cut one of those out and get by for a few months. Or can I delay this expense? And with a lot of the assistance that's happening, being able to delay expenses is great, but just remember they're going to have to be paid eventually. So if you can pay them, it's a good idea to go ahead and pay them so you don't get too far behind. One tip I have for people is to scour your bank statements and look for recurring debits, because there are probably things that you've signed up for through the years that are charging you either every month or every year, and it may be a service you're not even using anymore. So you can cancel those subscriptions, and that may save you some money along the way. Stretch the money you have as far as you possibly can, and avoid using credit if possible. It could put you in a worse situation in the long run. If you can take advantage of community resources to stretch your dollars rather than putting necessities on a credit card, you're going to be in better shape financially when we get past this. Also, adjust each month or even week as things change, because you may get additional income or you may have expenses you didn't expect. So this budget or budget calendar, if you will, is going to be an ongoing thing that you're going to have to continually adjust. And on the webinar, we're going to have a lot more ideas for you of ways to cut expenses and ways to handle the spending plan. The U in Crunch is use all available resources. And this one, I can't encourage people enough to really look at the resource website. We have the link for you there, and see what you might be able to take advantage of. Lots of places have lifted their eligibility requirements so that anybody can, thank you, Emily. Lots of places have lifted their eligibility requirements so that anybody can receive assistance right now. So it's important to inquire, even again, if you've inquired about something in the past and you were turned down, maybe now you still might be eligible. If you can get some of your needs met through the community resources, that will leave you money available for other expenses. So if you can get food from some of the food pantries or the community meal takeout options, that may leave money to be able to pay your water bill or something else that's a necessity. So look at that resource website. I want to highlight just a few of them quickly, just so you can kind of see the breadth of things that are on there. So there's the DSS and CCAP food assistance Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to noon at the Health and Human Services building. There's school food distribution for students. There's tons of food pantries and community takeout meals available. There's St. Luke Community Clinic for your healthcare needs. Centralized housing intake for homelessness prevention. The thermal shelter is still open through June 13th if you have an immediate need for housing. And that's actually one of the places that's hiring. So if you need a job, they need reliable people to help staff that through June 13th. The school system has public Wi-Fi information. If you don't have Wi-Fi at home, they have a list of places you can go in the county to get Wi-Fi access to take advantage of some of these resources. The library is one of those places, and I always tell people, don't think of your library as just books anymore. They have ebooks, they have audiobooks, they have movies, they have television shows, they have music. So you can get access to all of these things online and maybe cut your entertainment budget some by having free access to these resources. You can sign up for a virtual library card and then call the help desk and they will get you a physical library card as well. And that will give you the number that you can use to access a lot of their online databases. So please check out their website, it's in the links, and you'll find lots of information and resources that you can use. There's many more things in this list that we don't have time to cover. Free pet food, baby supplies, help with grocery shopping, and many other things. So please check that out. If you're aware of resources that are not on the list, please let me know that too so I can get them added. The next letter in Crunch is narrow your priorities, the N, narrow your priorities. So in the past, you've been able to make ends meet with a certain number of expenses, and with less income, you can't meet all those expenses. So you've got to figure out which ones are going to be taken care of first and which ones you're going to have to delay or cut back on. So because you can't pay everything you've always paid, you might have to make some different choices. So one question you can ask yourself is, what will happen if I don't pay this right now? That's a good question for any expense that you have. If the consequence isn't really severe immediately, that may be something that can be delayed. Really, you want to focus on your basic needs first. The squeaky wheels are going to be maybe credit card companies that are calling you or creditors that are calling you, and they may not necessarily be the highest priority. They may not be the thing that's going to have a severe consequence right away. So your basic needs, food, shelter, transportation to work if you're still working, those things are necessities for your family, and there's nothing wrong with paying them first. Don't feel guilty for getting your needs met, your necessities. Then your high priority debts are next. Those are things like court judgments that happened before this time or criminal justice debt, car loans for a vehicle that's a necessity for you, a critical transportation, your rent payments, and even though evictions are postponed, you are eventually going to have to pay them. The evictions will resume at some point. So that still is a high priority expense. You don't want to put that off and then 3 months from now have 3 months worth of rent to pay and not be able to pay it. So even if you can only pay part of the rent, if your landlord will accept part, that's a good thing to do so that you get less far behind. Utility bills, another same kind of situation where the cutoffs are paused, but eventually you're going to have to pay it. So that's a high priority. And then child support or family law debts. All of those things have pretty severe consequences if they're not handled ongoing basis. Medium priority debts are things like your mortgage, because the consequence is going to be a little bit later, but it'll still be severe if it's not paid. So if you are eligible for forbearance, just be careful about how that is happening. In some cases, some lenders are requiring that to be paid as a lump sum. So you have forbearance, you don't have to pay for, say, 3 months, but then at the end of 3 months, you have to pay a lump sum. And a lot of people aren't going to be able to do that. So when you talk with your lender, make sure that if they're just tacking that 3 months on to the end of your loan, that would be the ideal situation. You pay a little bit more interest, but it's not that balloon payment that you're needing. So that's something that's critical to investigate. Real estate taxes, federal student loans, and income taxes, those are all in that medium priority category because governments have more actions that they can take if you have delinquent debt. So they get to be higher priority on the list. The low priority debts are the ones that are probably screaming the loudest. So unfortunately, you just have to be assertive and tell them that you don't have the money to be able to pay them right now. It's difficult, but it's important not to put them above things that are more critical. Things like credit card debt, medical debt, private student loans, debt secured by something you can do without, like maybe furniture that you could live without that you could turn back in and not have to make that payment, or most unsecured debt. All of those things are lower priority. You'll want to pay them eventually, but they may need to wait until you have enough income to develop a debt repayment plan. The next C in crunch is contact your creditors. Some relief programs may be automatic, but most of them aren't. You're going to need to call or go online to your creditors, make sure that that relief program applies to you, that you're eligible, follow whatever process they have for applying for that, and make sure you understand the application procedures. Try to get those agreements in writing, because afterwards there may be some misunderstanding in things that have happened, and you'll want to make sure that you have proof of whatever agreement was made. Even if it's just a screenshot from your phone or a screenshot from your computer, you'll be able to say, this is my understanding, this is what I applied for, this is what was supposed to be postponed or changed or delayed. Then you want to keep good records of everything for proof for later. Understand when the payment will be needed and how the payment will be needed in the future. And then the credit bureaus are now allowing people weekly free copies of their credit reports. So if you have a question about whether a lender is actually abiding by the agreement or whether they're reporting something as delinquent that shouldn't be reported, you can go to annualcreditreport.com, and the link is there for you to get information about that and get your credit report. The last letter is H, and that is heed scam and loan warnings. And there are a ton of scams out there. I can't actually count the number of emails I'm getting about the new coronavirus type scams. So be careful. The testing and treatment offers that you receive, if they're not through your health provider or your healthcare provider or a pharmacy, then they're probably not legitimate. They probably don't work, and it's somebody just trying to get your money. So if it's through your healthcare provider or through a regular pharmacy, then that's going to be something you consider legitimate. Also, legitimate companies and government agencies will not call you, email, or text you asking you for personal information. They're just not going to do that. So if you get any robocalls, if you get anybody calling and asking for personal information, just hang up. Phone numbers can also be spoofed, so it can look like it's coming from the IRS when it's really not. So don't rely on the phone number to alleviate your concerns. Don't click on links in texts or emails. They can make fake sites that look real. So just don't trust anything that's coming to you unless you made the contact and initiated the phone call or the email. Research before you donate, because there are many scam charities out there. CharityNavigator.com, and the link is there for you. CharityNavigator.org is a link that you can check the charity and see if they're legitimate. Avoid payday loans, car title loans, and cash out mortgage options, because they're just going to get you deeper into the hole. So just remember that we have a free 1.5 hour webinar available. It's going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays throughout May at different times of the day and evening to reach all different people's schedules. Just visit the link, and the registration form has all the dates and times for you to register. After you register, you'll get a link by email for me to join the webinar. You can do that over Zoom through your web browser, or you can download an app on your iPhone or your Android and attend the webinar that way, or you can just call in using a phone. So anybody can access this information, and I can email you handouts. I can put handouts in the mail if needed to you. So there's no reason why everybody in the county shouldn't be able to access these resources. And last but not least is my contact information. Here's how to get in touch with me if you need anything else. People are invited to post questions on our Facebook page at NSD Financial Education, and I'll try to get answers. And the reason I'm doing that way is because everybody else would like to see the answers to your questions. So by posting them there, I can get information to people, to a variety of people throughout the county. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I really encourage you to take just one step at a time. There's a lot of help available. And if you don't know where to start, you can start by calling me. I'll do my best to point you in the right direction and answer your questions. So thank you for allowing me to be here today, Mr. Mabe.
Karen, thank you a lot for coming. Obviously, one of the reasons that we brought Karen in today is because things are changing. And as things change, we're going to have a lot more people that are unemployed. We're going to have a lot more people that are going to be getting into trouble financially very quickly. And they may never have been there before. They don't know what to do. So the thing is, understand that it could be coming, not saying that it is, but it could be coming, and if it comes to your household, know that there's people out there like the Virginia Extension Service that actually wants to help and can help. And with saying that, now I'd like to introduce Rick Farrell. Rick is our Deputy Emergency Coordinator. He's going to be talking about the COVID-19, and I'll turn it over to Rick. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this afternoon, I'd like to provide you all with a very brief update on three things related to the coronavirus. First, the number of reported COVID-19 cases in our North Fairfax Health District, the Commonwealth, and the United States. I'm going to briefly speak on the University of Virginia's Biocomplexity Institute report on the estimation of the effects of COVID-19 in Virginia, and finally, talk to the Governor's Forward Virginia Blueprint. As of today, the Virginia Department of Health reported 410 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the Lower Fairfax Health District, and those include Warren County and the counties that surround us. In Clark County, there are 8 cases. Frederick is 105, Page 100, Shenandoah 108. In Warren County, we have 52. In the city of Winchester, 37 cases. Throughout the Commonwealth, there's over 90,000 patients that have been tested, resulting in 15,800 cases. Approximately 2,300 of those patients were hospitalized, resulting in 552 deaths. The total cases in the Commonwealth comprise 17.4%, which is a slight increase from yesterday, and the death rate right now is holding steady at about 0.61%. In the United States, as of yesterday, the CDC reports there are just over 1 million total cases of COVID-19 in the country, resulting in 57,000 deaths. And our nationwide death rate right now is about 5.7%, and that's been holding steady over the past week. So this is good news in a sense, and you can find this and other information on COVID-19 on the VDH and CDC websites. My second topic briefly regards the University of Virginia's Biocomplexity Institute, and they produced a report titled The Estimation of COVID-19 Impact in Virginia. This is important because the governor relies on this modeling when he makes his decisions. This particular report has been updated twice now, last month and most recently this past week, and it's based on modeling the effects of social distancing from 3 perspectives. First, they looked at lifting social distancing requirements on either May the 8th or June 10th. And if you recall, May the 8th is associated with the amended Executive Order number 53, temporary restrictions on business, etc., and Executive Order number 55, the Governor's stay-at-home order that's in effect until June 10th. The intensity of social distancing, either slowing or pausing the effects of COVID-19, is when a slowing scenario is where we'll see social distancing slows the growth, but new cases do increase. A pause scenario is where social distancing pauses the growth, reducing new growth cases to low levels. And finally, the team looked at unmitigated or no social distancing or other types of mitigation. With that, the key takeaways of this model are projecting future cases precisely is impossible and unnecessary. Even without perfect projections, the team can confidently draw several conclusions. First, the current social distancing efforts are working, though recent trends suggest the effects of social distancing may be waning. This week's model update shows that the rate is increasing, moving the time to exceeding medical capacity 1 to 3 weeks earlier than expected. Lifting too many social distancing restrictions too soon can quickly lead to a second wave, and further modeling could explore the effectiveness of trace contact isolation policies. And as always, the situation is changing rapidly, and this model will be updated regularly. You can find this information at the UVA's Biocomplexity Institute's website. With that modeling, the last topic I'll cover briefly is the Governor's Forward Virginia Blueprint. Last week, the Governor briefed us on what needs to happen to move to the next phase. As he sees it, when we see a downward trend in the percentage of positive COVID-19 tests over 14 days, when we see a downward trend in hospitalizations over 14 days, when we all have increased testing and tracing, enough hospital beds and intensive care capacity, and an increased and sustainable supply of personal protective equipment, then Virginia can move on to phase 1. According to the Governor, phase 1 looks like this. Some businesses will begin to reopen, although they will have strict safety restrictions. We will continue social distancing, we'll continue teleworking, and face coverings will be recommended in public. Finally, having said all that, we're still in this for the long haul, and everyone should expect the effects of the virus to last through the summer. I want to thank everyone for what you're doing for our community. Stay healthy, take care, and God bless.
Thank you, Rick, for joining us. COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Infected people have a wide range of symptoms reported, from mild symptoms to severe illnesses. Symptoms that may appear up to 14 days after exposure to the virus are fever, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and a new loss of taste or smell. If you develop any of these COVID-19, get medical attention immediately, especially with trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion or inability to be aware of things, and bluish lips or face. There are groups of people in all walks of life and trades that wish to help in this community, to help us get through these problems and that arise from the virus. All that is needed is a call and make us aware to make things happen. There are new normals coming, and so many people just don't know how to deal with the needs. Let's learn together. Please review our Warren County website at www.warrencountyva.net. And having said all of that, as you Plant your garden. Plant extra plants. Think of it as a victory garden. I'd love to drive around this county and see gardens growing everywhere, because that means that you're going to get some additional vegetables that you may not be able to get, and somebody in your neighborhood or the food bank's going to get vegetables that they weren't expecting. So the more that we can do, the more that we can do for our community. We're bringing it together. People are working together, and we've got people that want to help all over the place. All you've got to do is ask. Also remember that you don't need to go hungry. If that happens to you, call somebody. DSS is there. We've got churches are there. We've got people out there that want to help. So give us a call. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I hope everyone's day gets better and we continue to move forward. Thank you.